Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Oh man, this one hurts to do. I hope everyone is doing okay. Let me check my sound, make sure my sound is okay. And my sound is good. I got up because I wanted to do, oh, my sound is not good. I wanted to do a video on WikiLeaks. Because there's stuff that's taking place right now with WikiLeaks. But something else I saw when I was on Twitter. And it's caught my interest because of the people who are involved in this. Jimmy Dore and Garry Kasparov. Such an odd and interesting combination of people, and yet those people are connected in this particular story. One of my favorite players was Misha. Misha smoked, drank, had a kidney issue, and yet had this happy-go-lucky way of chess that was able to become a grandmaster and world champion with that happy-go-lucky way of chess that people said there's no way you're going to be able to become a chess champion with that way that you play. Many grandmasters and masters, especially in the up higher echelons of chess, play a way that tries to minimize their risk while at the same token expanding the amount of risk that they can force on the other opponent. How many threats can you put up and so forth. Tao played in this way, but Tao played in this way in this kind of extreme aggression that oftentimes people didn't know what the hell was going on into the game until they started losing their bits. And in that point where they realized they were losing their bits, it was too late. It was a fantastic way of playing. Loved his games. He has this book. I can't think of the name of the book, but Life of Games of Macau Tao, one of my favorite books. And he talks about chess. The book is huge. And a lot of the book is just Cal talking. A lot of it. Some of it during games. He's in the middle of a game and he's thinking about how do you get a hippopotamus out of the marsh. And in the middle of this game, he stops to have this conversation in the book. The book is amazing. One of my favorite players. Loved the way that the man played. And again, extremely complicated because, like I said, many of the people didn't realize that they were in for a shit show until they were in the middle of the shit show, at which point it was too late. And at that point, you're holding on to everything that you can get your hands onto. And then you start throwing pieces over, because if you don't throw pieces over, you're going to lose the game. And then at the very end, you're left with your underwear and your Walkman. And that's pretty much all you have at your disposal. And you resign and you walk out the tournament hall, broken as a man, not necessarily knowing what took place. The second person was Garry Kasparov. Kasparov was one of my favorite players. Not as favorite as Tao, because if I'm being honest, Kasparov's games were so complicated. They were just fucking difficult to watch, or they're difficult to understand some of the stuff that he goes through because of the way he goes through any place. But amazing player. And dominant to a degree that I've never seen before. Like, Kasparov was dominant for like 20-something years in chess. Completely dominant. Maybe losing a game every so many years, but I've never seen the situation where somebody was so dominant in that particular area for that length of time. Understood, completely acknowledged. There was nobody who could even touch him or come close. That being said, everything in chess doesn't necessarily translate to real life. If I am controlling the pawn, the rook, the bishop, the knight, the queen, well, I understand the disposition of all those pieces because I am controlling all of those pieces. And as I play this game, I have complete mastery and understanding of what's taking place because there are no secrets on the board. Either we see it or we don't. I may have some plans, but those things are apparent on the board if you can look and understand what's taking place. Kasparov was a god of that board. Well, chess and everything doesn't translate into real life. Just because I may master each and every one of these pieces and understand the disposition of all of these pieces, well, I don't have that skill in real life. In real life, there's a lot of stuff that I don't understand. I can't see the perspective of people in other countries or other races or other cultures or other I can't see those things. Those things are opaque to me. I can't penetrate those. So in any analysis that you're coming up with from the standpoint of real life, you're always missing information. This is Garry Kasparov. Take a look at this. This happened 20, 30 odd years ago. This was a big deal at the time that it happened. I don't know if people remember. This was in 1997.
As long as I could keep on the pressure.
Forget game, today game. I mean, Deep Blue
This is a man failing. And this is a man failing in a way where he doesn't necessarily fully want to own up to the fact that he was failing miserably in his game. He plays this last game. He plays into a trap. He gets obliterated in that trap within 14 moves. The greatest chess player that's ever touched the board gets obliterated in 14 moves by a robot, and gets up and says something about it being the hand of God, leaving the table in this kind of huff, in this overdramatic way. This is a man failing at this moment.
Now, force a draw. Now,
somebody has another opinion, stand up and tell that the position was not a draw. Game 2 was resigned in a completely drawing position. Is it the correct statement? No, is it the correct? No, I just want. No, it's important. Is it the correct statement, Mr. Benjamin?
This is not just a man failing. This is a man failing in an embarrassing way in front of an audience and trying to get the people who made the computer to assuage his failures. Here's another man, same person, failing miserably, but for a different reason, in a conversation. Oh, holy shit. Where is it? 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 Damn it. I had this thing up. Give me 1 second, guys. That sucks. I had this up. So, the video with Garry Kasparov attacking Jimmy Dore. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Here we are. All right.
We're trying to turn our attention from the real crime. People are killing. People are being killed today. To what? To violence. You're spreading this false theory. And you're trying to turn our attention from the real crime. People are killing. People are being killed today. To what? To violations of the rights. People in America can elect their representatives. If you don't like them, you have a chance to remove them in November. You have a chance. We don't have a chance to remove Vladimir Putin. You don't like Trump? Fine. Go and just and vote for him out. I don't like him either.
They already did. 3 million.
No, wait, sir. Okay, fine. This is not what we want.
He said, fine, sir. Look, I don't know how all of this took place. Jimmy Dore comes out and says, it appears Garry Kasparov is using human rights as a shield to push a right-wing agenda and won't allow questions about United States human rights violations. Maybe this is why he's such an unhinged bully. Here's another one. Nobody shuts down Jimmy. You embarrassed yourself. And then human rights defenders, Togo, Iran, Russia, Venezuela, Sudan, and Nicaragua responded the way you didn't like. At Oslo, I don't know, FF, I just got called a Putin puppet by maniac Garry Kasparov, who screamed about gas attacks in Syria after I pointed out that the United States is the world's biggest penal colony and tortures and prisons whistleblowers like Chelsea Manning, and the resistance is a joke. Yeah, this is Kasparov looking bad and Kasparov failing miserably for one very specific reason. I understand that Kasparov may think, well, I was in Russia and I know what this stuff is. Yeah, but you're not an American. And fact is, however bad you think this stuff is in Russia, you can't be a shield for human rights abuses. Whether that's, like Jimmy Dore made the point to, this kind of penal colony where you have, 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the prison population in your cells. That's embarrassing. By any stretch, that's embarrassing. If you want to talk about the black sites, the tortures, I mean, there are some really nasty, disgusting things that you should not be standing up for. The paying of terrorists abroad, the instigating ourselves in one country after the next, destroying other nations. Is Garry Kasparov really being a shield for this behavior? If it is, that is profoundly embarrassing. Like I said, the first video was of a man failing, Garry Kasparov, and trying to explain his failures to the media and trying to get the team that beat him to say that they didn't beat him as bad as he was actually beaten. And in the second point, trying to be a shield for for massive human rights abuses because he has a political opposition to Vladimir Putin. Here's the thing. Don't try to make Jimmy Dore responsible for the failings of your own government and your own country. If you have an issue with Vladimir Putin, that's for the people of Russia to solve, not for us. Nor does the issues that are associated with Putin and associated with Russia have anything to do with the human rights abuses that take place at our, you could say, at the behest of our military and our intelligence complexes. Both of those things can be true. You can have a miserable fucking government under Vladimir Putin, but it doesn't also change one iota the pain and misery that's caused when we're instigating ourselves in other countries or destroying other parts of the globe. Jimmy Dore is not a Putin puppet for pointing that out, especially if your rhetoric and the position that you're taking chafes with his value system. He's asking you a question. The fact that you don't particularly like the question kind of brings up this question of why don't you like this particular question, and let's delve into the fact that you don't like this particular question and figure out why. Fact is, what Dore was telling you in this case of saying, it sounds like you're supporting these really nasty human rights abuses because of your political opposition to Vladimir Putin. Well, Garry Kasparov didn't like that question. I would love to see a longer video of this particular exchange. I don't have a longer video of the exchange, but I will put the video of the exchange that I have at the bottom. This video hurts me to do because Garry Kasparov was one of my second best favorite player. But the moment that you take somebody off the board, that political context gets involved. And he has been a staunch advocate. A staunch resistance member from the standpoint of Russian politics. I don't live in Russia, dude. I don't have your political leanings in the standpoint. I don't have to deal with your political leanings from the standpoint of Russia. I care about what we do in this world. Jimmy Dore cares about what we do in this world. And I understand that you have a certain disposition against Vladimir Putin. Well, if your disposition chafes with my own value system, then yeah, you should be called out for it. You should be called out. Especially when you're talking about something dealing with violence, people being killed, people being held in prisons. And you are taking this position that because something is in opposition to Vladimir Putin, that by virtue of being in opposition to Vladimir Putin is somehow right or somehow good. Nonsense. Jimmy Dore was right to call you out. When I get my hands on a longer video, I'm going to play the longer video. But at the very least, this is a video that I have at my disposal. Jimmy Dore and Vladimir Putin. I'm sorry, not Vladimir Putin. Jimmy Dore and Garry Kasparov having a go at one another. Let's see if I can find this again. Right here.
And you are trying to turn our attention from the real crime. People are killing.
And by the way, nobody's trying to turn your attention away from the real crime. I think the difference is we don't live in Russia. So if we're pointing out something that's taking place from the standpoint of what we in the United States are doing, then that is our purview to do because we live in the United States. Shit, man. If Jimmy Dore is pointing this out, it's not that somebody trying to turn your attention away from something, Gary. It's that those things matter more to us because we live in this country. That's what it boils down to, dude. Nobody's trying to divert attention or change your mind or turn your mind away from certain things. You don't like Vladimir Putin, that's great. We don't live in Russia. That's less our concern.
They are being killed today. To what? To violations of the rights. People in America can elect their representatives. If you don't like them, you have a chance to remove them in November. You have a chance. We don't have a chance to remove Vladimir Putin. You don't like Trump? Fine. Go and just vote for him out. I don't like him either.
They already did. 3 million
No, wait,
people.
sir.
Okay, fine.
This is not what we want.
Jimmy Dore said we already did. I really want to hear the whole and entirety of that exchange. I want to hear the whole entirety of that exchange. I grew up in a communist country. I know what freedom is and what freedom is not. Well, you growing up in a communist country just means that you know what a communist country is. You have no idea what the other thing is. So I'm not going to keep this one much longer. I'm going to end it here because, again, there's not a huge amount to that. Jimmy Dore gets into this conflict with Garry Kasparov when he asks him some question about, I guess, human rights, disliking what Garry Kasparov is saying and apparently being provoked or triggered by a question by Jimmy Dore on, I know what it is, on America not being a democracy. That was the question. Essentially, Jimmy Dore asked Garry Kasparov a question about it not being a democracy, and Garry Kasparov essentially flipped. And the exchange that you heard was based on that question. So, Dore doing his thing, pissing off chess giants. Dore pushed his pawn. Didn't Kasparov approve of the Iraq War? I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised at this point. I've heard Kasparov say some shit that's been extraordinarily suspicious. And if he did, maybe there's a reason you lost the Deep Blue. Yes, entities, lest we be shut down. True, but we may be better not to focus too narrowly. Janus Biffrons. My focus is fairly narrow with good reason. I don't think the focus is narrow. I think we live in the United States. It is our responsibility from the standpoint of keeping a watch on our government and what our government does. I do not want to be put in the disposition of being in this kind of new Cold War. And there's nothing wrong with somebody kind of pointing out, especially when somebody is doing this rah-rah stuff, to point out like, well, wait a minute. What you're saying doesn't necessarily line up with actual reality. This country is less like a democracy. And if you're doing this rah-rah thing, what about all these other failures that are associated with? Now, I understand that he's going to say, well, I grew up in a communist country. Okay, what does that have to do with anything that I've just said? You grew up in a communist country. Sucks for you. I'm sorry. I grew up in this country. We have a lot of people in our prisons, and we have a military that goes around killing and destroying other countries. What does that have to do with you being in a communist country? So, yeah. I'm going to end this here. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. And yes, Jimmy Dore, keep kicking ass. Keep kicking ass. I love it. I love it. And I love the fact that he didn't back down when the people were like, oh, they were groaning. They were groaning. Yeah, I love it. All right, guys. You all have a good night. Night, guys.